Hello, everyone, and welcome to another pick. And you thought I was gonna say card, but today it's not gonna be a classic tarot reading, but rather an unconscious projection. So this is where pick a mineral, if that makes sense. Now, unfortunately, I have absolutely no idea what these minerals are, so I'm going to trust your intuition. But it doesn't even matter all that much because these cards are empty. This is where I will invite you to do this reading for yourself, where I am going to be guiding you. Now, why did I choose this? Either today or tomorrow, depending on where you are on the planet, we have a new moon in Aquarius squared by Uranus. That adds an element of chaos. The minerals are symbolizing Taurus, the physical earth, the geomagnetics even of the earth, and we had so much of that very recently. So that's why the minerals. And then Pluto is in Uranus's home sign of Aquarius, which represents the unconscious and the power of the unconscious, where something may want to burst forth for us to become aware of it, and not just from a very basic mental perspective, but from a very high mental perspective, because that is the sign of Aquarius. So I do believe that this new moon, along with the other astrological energies, really support such a reading. And also, both Pluto and Uranus have a lot to do with a revelation, just that they operate in a radically different way, where Uranus usually comes from the outside and raises awareness. Pluto, the opposite, it comes from the inside, but also raises awareness. So what I am going to be doing today is you are going to choose a stone, and I'm going to be dipping this thread in some ink, and then the power of chaos, the power of hazard, the chance will draw a drawing or something. It will depict something, and we shall interpret it together, but mostly you, what you see in the drawing. And then I'm going to clarify with a few tarot cards. So I'm going to leave you a couple of seconds to make your choice. And you can you can pause the video, especially after we have an image, so that you can have a bit of time to look at it and process it and twist it, turn it around. So I'll be taking these two away for now, and we'll begin with the first one. I am not sure what this mineral is, even though who gave it to me told me the name, but I forgot. And as you can see, this is blank. This has nothing on it yet. And this is the ink. So this is going to be a messy reading without a doubt. So now I'll try to dip the thread into the ink. And this is where probably the messy part begins, because it has to soak a tiny little bit. And I'm using a very not elegant straw, but so I think that will do it. Now, if you focus a couple of seconds, but focus just on staying calm, calming yourself. Don't have any intent, don't have anything, just a moment of quiet, because usually that allows the unconscious to project. After which, I'm gonna take the thread, just put it there, and I will try to remove this out of the way for now, the ink. So far, so good, no big mess. Let's leave this as well a couple of seconds for your unconscious to charge it. And then we'll pull the thread out. Now, this was messy. And let us see what we have. It has to dry a little bit, so that's why Maybe I should blow on it a bit, because otherwise the ink will just drip. And I'm going to be showing you the image in just a moment. I'm just allowing this to dry, if that is even possible. So now, let's say that, not to waste time, let's say that this is ready. So I'll hold this up a couple of moments, and you can, at this moment, stop the video and just look at what the image might suggest to you. And of course, I'm going to be turning it around in a second, because, that's Uranus, both of the polarities. Maybe it will be more appealing to certain people this way. And also, speaking about polarities, Aquarius is the living dichotomy. So Aquarius is a very powerful dual fixed sign. As you can see, the ink is still runny. And now I shall try to interpret this myself, although this is where what you see, what you get from this is much more important than mine. But of course, I am going to choose a couple of tarot cards after we're done with this process. Now, if I look at the image in this way, this too, is that correct? Yep. If I look at the image this way, I see horses. But that is, of course, my interpretation. On the other hand, I also see the symbol of a dolphin. The fins are, the prominent fin is here. Now, the horse itself, maybe I should move this a bit closer. Like, I'm not sure how. I think this will do. There. So the horses, for whoever chose this stone, might represent an urgent inner impulse to obtain either a certain kind of freedom in one area of your life, an area which has been blocked for quite some years. But when I say blocked, it is not the typical blockage because you took action. You really, really try to unblock it with a certain degree of success. But this is where the energies, the intent, the modus operandi that you invested into this in the past was highly conditioned by circumstances and most probably a bit of karma and also divine timing. So it could only be in a way imperfectly achieved. And also there was like a trail of breadcrumbs where the universe encouraged you to keep on going, but it could not deliver. And also, to me, this says wild horses. So this isn't the classical, sorry, disciplined horse who helps the farmer or the mount or stuff like that. This is where wild horse. For some, actually, if I look at it a bit closely, after this ink settled, this also resembles a tiny bit like a cow, the sacred cow that in certain cultures is one of the most sacred symbols of nourishment, one of the most sacred symbols of a sacrifice, but the kind of sacrifice which is in elation. And of course, it is a symbol of the divine feminine and the resilience and the endurance which usually goes hand in hand. So for some of you guys, it is actually representative wild horse with the cow, in the sense that the freedom for you to embrace your creativity, for you to embrace a part of yourself which wants to give, which wants to offer something, either to a group of people, to the world, to your family, or to yourself, to nurture yourself back, to love yourself back, but not in a classical way, hence the wild horse, in a truly wild, in a truly natural way. But in order for you to do that, perhaps this was the biggest issue. You needed to discover what is natural to you. So, a journey of profound self discovery where the wild horse, if you want to tame a wild horse, it will fight back with everything that it has. So this also represents an inner conflict where your inner self fought you with everything it had for you not to condition it. For example, not for you not to follow society's way of doing it, not to follow the times, if that makes sense. So this is where it's like a cry for freedom, a freedom that perhaps is very close in your grasp, because if we look at the dolphin symbol, that represents water, that represents the mastery of the water element, but with intellect and also heart, and of course, what is specific to the dolphin, the wildness, the freedom, the not obeying the rules. However, dolphins are known to have moments of great kindness and even compassion, but dual. Dolphins are also be known to have moments of infinite cruelty. How they, for example, hunt killer whales where they tire them out until they drown. Dolphins are also known to, this is where, should I say it or not, they are rapists, especially gang rapists. And in the animal kingdom, that is in a way quite rare and unusual, but with great intelligence comes great uniqueness, so to speak. But of course, I'm just explaining, I'm not saying that this has anything to do with sexual impulses. I am just explaining the wild nature, the uncontrollable nature, the freedom of it, and the self acceptance. Because you do need to accept something inside of you that is true and authentic and wild, but maybe most of your life you judged that, or you kept it in chains. So now let us reverse this and let's see if we can see anything in a reversed position on it. In reverse position, to be totally honest with you, this to me is, but only to me, not maybe not to you. In reverse position, this to me looks like a doggy who is playing, and it is adapting that playful position where it supports itself on its two front legs and then the tail is wagging. So your inner being demands playfulness. It demands attention from you, a certain part of your being. Now, this is where it can be sexual, it can be creative, but according especially to Freud, the two go hand in hand. But this can also be travel, where if you haven't seen the world, or if you haven't seen a specific place, maybe your inner being is calling out to you. A place in the world is calling out to you. But this is where, when I say place in the world, put it into context. Because, of course, it can be the spirit of a land. It can be a certain culture where you lived a previous existence, and Saturn in the sign of Pisces is triggering it heavily. But it can also just be general freedom for you to travel and enjoy life a little bit, but in a mobile and an also adventurous way. Because wild nature, well, we can very, very easily identify the positive side of it, but the not so favorable side is always being exposed to danger. And also, this is where life is meant to be like that, full of dangers and obstacles and discomfort. But wild animals prefer discomfort for their to preserve their freedom. Now, this is, as I said, my interpretation, what I see in the image for you, but what you see, how you interpret it, that matters much, much more. My interpretation is merely like a guideline, if that even makes sense. But again, it is your inner vision and how your own, I don't necessarily want to say mind, but better how your mental sphere with everything along with it identifies it that it's more important. Now let us extract a few cards, and even the cards are going to be chaotic, as in whatever wants to come out comes out. Queen of Swords reversed. Ace of Wands reversed. Four of Pentacles, but upright. And one more. Okay, actually we have two more. So we have the Five of Swords and the Magician reversed. This is so very clear, at least to me. The Queen of Swords, the mental sphere, the critical function of the mental sphere. And this is where it's both self-critical, but also critical of how you perceive life and the world. And this Queen of Swords, that critical aspect of your mind, blocked or tuned down the Ace of Wands, the symbol of your willpower, and actually the symbol of your wild side, your wilderness, your inner strength, the I am, basically. I am and I want. Why? Because of a stability. Because you were afraid to make certain steps in your life, because you knew that that would uproot you, or it would, let's say, demolish a certain stability that you had, and also you needed it back then. So the correct path forward was really not to just uproot yourself, but to take it easy in steps, see how well you can manage, and then a moment would have come where you, it was time, where your being and the divine and everything said, okay, I think you're ready. Whenever you wish, uproot yourself, because you have everything that you need in the background, invisible to you, of course, to make an important step for your freedom. But this Five of Swords, this is where people got in the way, relationships got in the way, and of course, maybe the ways of the world, the specifics of our times, like whatever you heard on the internet, got in the way because they confused your mental sphere, and it how should I say, it kind of scared it into being extraordinarily cautious, to grip onto any kind of stability that you had because you did not trust the process. The Magician reversed. You had control issues. This is where you might have always been a very cerebral person, and that goes hand in hand with, you do need some control in your life. You do need to, at least your mind, to know what it can expect. Not maybe 1,000,000%, but it needs to have a certain kind of control. But the Magician reverse, this is where, because you did not have that power to anticipate, and your mind did not have anything to grip onto as security, That's why you were blocked with this. So I think this wild horse, along with this reading, tells you that the moment is approaching. This is not predictive, don't get me wrong, but your inner self demands this of you. So this feeling of wanting to be free is growing within you. So you do need to sit down with yourself and have a very serious conversation. What is worth it? The stability. Which part of the stability would you lose, but what would you gain? And the Five of Swords, this is very, very important because you need to disconnect with whatever is sabotaging you, sabotaging your mental sphere. Because by now, the Queen of Swords reversed. When she's upright, that means that whatever she criticizes, it's down to earth reality and you better listen. When she's upright, this is where she's running a program which once was, as I said earlier, for your safety, but now it is just the reminiscence of a past wisdom that is no longer applicable. So I think I'm going to leave it at this. Thank you so very much, everyone, for listening and for tuning in, and wishing you a blessed new moon. And now let us get to the second pile. I do believe that this was the second pile. I'm so sorry if it's not, but you can adapt it. So I think it was this green rock. If you can see the color, it's like Paris green, like poison. So just that like I have done for the previous pile, we are going to allow your unconscious to project on this. As you can see, it has nothing on it, it's blank. And now the messy part begins. So we are going to be taking this piece of thread, dipping it into the ink, and if you can quiet your mind, because don't have any intention, don't hold any thought, because that really, really helps the projection. And I'm gonna now take it out like this. For the previous pile, it was too runny. So I'll try to I'll try my best to reduce the liquid on the thread a little bit. And now again, please keep that state of calm and mental emptiness. So it's on here. Let us close it and give your unconscious a few seconds for it to project. And now we're gonna be pulling the thread out. But before I do, again, as I said for the previous pile, your interpretation of this and what you see in it, that is the important part. Mine is just a guideline. Wow, this is definitely radically different than for the previous pile. But I do need to allow it a few seconds for the ink to settle because it's still a bit runny. And as I said for the previous pile, you can pause here and look at the image for as long as you want. And also we'll take into consideration both sides. And after we're gonna complete it with a few tarot cards. So now I am going to take a few moments to look at it and interpret it for myself. Okay, so what I see in the image in this way, is it correct? I'm not sure if it's all that visible to everyone. So what I see in the image like this is, well, basically, I see, and I know that this is a bit weird because how could I see an emotion? I see pride. I see great pride. And also, I see a tool that is usually used by plumbers to fix, to, how should I even explain this? Because I don't know the name of the tool. I'm not very good at stuff like that. Where you join two pipes and have to fix them together, and also a measuring tool. So what this, but this has to be correlated with pride, you know what I mean? Because where do I get pride from? You know, when someone is adapting a really, really prideful position, exposing their chest, you know what I mean? As a symbol of come at me, bro, something like that. And along with the tool, this is where I do believe that your inner being is infinitely more resourceful and infinitely more social than you could ever possibly think. Maybe you actually think the opposite from of yourself, but that is due to a certain kind of pride. This is where if you might go back into your past, maybe childhood, or maybe when you were really young, or maybe your first relationships and stuff like that, this is where what in life forced you to be infinitely or exaggeratedly self-sufficient and resourceful, to try to solve everything yourself and hide. When I say hide, not in a sneaky way or in a bad intended way, but simply not show your struggles, not show your fears, not show that which was not really working in your life, and not show certain dissatisfaction that you had with certain areas of your life, where you can imagine everyone, especially in their younger years, has to be dissatisfied with one thing or the other. So this kind of built like a snowball. When you allow a snowball to roll down a hill, it becomes a huge chunk of snow. You know what I mean? Um, and that gave you a certain kind of pride, not necessarily. How should I say? In a very narcissistic, egoist, not in that way, but in a way where you don't want to show your vulnerabilities. And even when there's help existing in your life, or the potential or the possibility, you might not choose it. You always choose self resourcefulness. I can fix it myself. I really don't want to trouble anyone. Who am I to be helped like that? Etc. etc. So these might be thoughts that you are very familiar with. Now, the thing is that this is where the social connection comes into play, because this energy, this mental pattern, this modus operandi, but in a way of I operate as a being like this. This might have, of course, on one hand, blocked certain social connections from entering your life, making you feel, on one hand, lonely. On the other hand, that the social connections that you did have in your life were not meaningful to you, only to the others, but not in a negative way, not in a way that people used you and stuff like that. However, I have to contradict myself immediately, because that was the other pattern, where some people just used you and you could not imagine why. Well, that is why, because of your great self resourcefulness, when other people, even not with bad intent, this is where let's eliminate bad intent here. See how well you can manage, or see how perfectly and with great ease you solve situations. Why with great ease? Self-sufficiency, running a bit obsessively, makes you much stronger than anyone else. And it makes you be able to help people in a certain way that comes naturally, comes easy. Your mastery just shines. And you were blind to this, but everyone else was not. So this is where you might have distanced yourself. You might have blocked out connections from your life because you thought that maybe I'm an introvert, maybe I'm a loner, maybe I need solitude in my life, but I don't think so. This is where maybe that loner, the lone wolf and stuff like that is actually an illusion, a bad impression, one that you could not help but to conclude that at that certain moment in your life, because that's what everything in your life showed you, reflected. But that's not due because you were, that is not due because your soul has that specific configuration, but that was due because the great strength you invested into self-sufficiency. But in order for you to try and change this, on one hand, I don't think you can ever change it in a sense that it became part. It is like a tattoo, it's permanent. But you can tune it, you can turn it into healthy levels. But on one, you can imagine that mastery and the power you got from this, that is ultimately positive. Why would you even change that? But you need to make this, be able to exist in healthy levels. And for that, you need to go back to all those situations in your life, maybe career, maybe in family, maybe in relationships, in something where you were ashamed to ask for help, or asking her for help denoted weakness and disrespect. May this be true or just your impression again, but you need to go back to that and address it where it's not all that true. Maybe it's true to a certain degree, but it's not true to the degree what you've done with it. So you do need to heal that. Now, the other side, this is where I see two angels, but one of the angel is much, one of the angel is masculine, other angel is feminine. So you can see the angels hovering around. But for other people, this can be fairies, why not? For other people, still maybe dragonfly spirit, or beings which have wings and are usually pleasant. This means that you have so much inspiration in your life, but you never give way to it. You acknowledge it, and inside of you, you have so much fun with it. You are inspired and you see beauty, you see the magic, you see something, how should I say, you see something with a Venusian projection on the world. You do see the beauty in everything. You do see the potential also, Angel, the potential in everything. But maybe you don't do, and this is where I'm not saying be creative, because it's not about that. It's not really about taking the inspiration and creativity and working with it. It's not, absolutely not that case. But you could share it with someone, even if just one person, someone who is like your best friend, someone who is like your soulmate, someone who is like your life partner, if that is the case. But this is where you have a great shyness within you. Life toughened you. From this side, it's absolutely clear. But that toughness is meant to be resourcefulness and mastery. That doesn't mean that the sensitive side of you has to be suffocated because you're aware of it. You get the inspiration inside of you. You have fun with yourself in that, if that makes sense, because you see the beauty and you embrace it. But from the outside, one might say that you don't even have this sense because you don't express it to anyone apart from the self. Try and express it to someone special, because expressing it opens you up to a totally new dimension. This is where certain energies in your life that cannot enter your life because you don't express it, you dissociate yourself from it in public image. Deep inside of you, you know too well how sensitive you are and inspired. That's almost like a muse. You are not meant to do anything perhaps with the beauty that you see, the inspiration and the muse stuff. But what if you would share this with someone else? You could delight them. Be an actual muse in your life, because muse with resourcefulness, that makes you almost like an earth angel, if that even makes sense. So in order for certain channels in your life to open up, you do need to express your inner lived states. You know what? Especially the inspiration, the playfulness, the fantasy, the the fairy type of energy. But by this, I do not mean the modern, the rainbow and all of that. I mean where you can see the depth of everything, but in a playful way, in an inspirational way. So now let us see what the cards have to say. And this is where it's totally random. There is no question, there is no subject, whatever they wish to communicate. Let Uranus do its job. So, we have three. We have the Seven of Pentacles reversed. We have oh my goodness, the Three of Cups, the Muse, the inspiration. Do you see this? Like, I could have not made this up. And the Eight of Coins, the mastery. The work, the resourcefulness, the planning, the mastery. Like, it at this moment, really, it was like the universe was listening to my interpretation of that, and it's confirming it. Or maybe my unconscious is that powerful, which I really doubt, but it these almost ended up in the ink. So the Six of Swords, this is so clear. Seven of Coins reversed. Now, Seven of Coins upright would mean wait for the crops to be ready, wait for the fruit to ripen on the tree, wait for the seeds of intentions to grow into mature plants before you can harvest. Reversed, however, it says that if you do not harvest, it's gonna spoil. Not in the universe, really nothing spoils because nature will claim it back. But put this symbolism into your own context. Your inner being will still benefit from the inspiration, from everything, but you will not achieve. And I don't want to say maximum potential because that's not even the case. You won't achieve anything real with it. It will only and only be real to you. And maybe that's the cause that you feel lonely. That's the cause that you feel that you cannot open yourself up to anyone. And the Three of Coins along with the Eight of Coins. Three of Cups, sorry, along with the Eight of Coins. Imagine that if you become a muse to a person, just one person even, along with your resourcefulness and your great intelligence, how would that transform your life? How would that transform your self-image? How would that make you actually feel in physical reality all the beauty and inspiration that you get? I'm not saying that your life is gonna turn into that, but your life will have that side of it. And I do believe that this is where the masculine energies, regardless of your gender, that need to be fed, that need to be sensitized, because it is the feminine that some feminine side that receives all this beauty, and so she is active. The feminine side is active. The masculine side has the shyness not to be able to express this. And finally, the Six of Swords, move on. You have to move on in the sense that open up socially a little bit more. Move on from this. And also, the Six of Swords represents so clearly this present moment Aquarian vibes, and also for the next 20 years with Pluto in it. But perhaps this tells me that Uranus 6, after 2026, moves into the sign of Gemini. And what is very special, that after 2026, it will inevitably hold a trine with Pluto. That might be a moment when, what if you open up and if you truly share however you want with whoever you want the inspirations that you receive, it will turn to something really useful and beautiful, and other people, other souls might be inspired not by what you share, because that is self-explanatory, but by your example of daring to open up and daring to not let this spoil all the beauty that you receive. So I'm gonna leave it at this. Thank you so much, second pile, if I don't know how to address this, for listening, and wishing you a blessed new moon in the sign of Aquarius. So hello, everyone who has chosen the third and final stone. Even though I am not 1,000,000%, this might have been either the third or second. I forgot along the way, but I'm very sure that you can put it into, rectify it if I'm mistaken. So just like I have done for the previous piles, this is the ink, and this is empty. So this is blank. And we're gonna allow your unconscious to project on it. So if you could just quiet your mind for a moment, and allow your thoughts to be silent, don't have any intent, don't have any question, just allow a void, new moon void. And we're gonna allow a couple of seconds for your unconscious to project with whatever it wants to say. This is becoming a really messy business because ink is everywhere by now, but it is what it is. And now I'm gonna carefully take the thread out, because I have to make sure that it's not fully soaked with ink, because then it will just be a blob. And okay, now we're gonna place it and close it and allow your unconscious a bit of time to make the projection. And as I said for the previous piles, the Aquarian energy and the new moon and the Uranian activation is so supportive of this kind of work and reading. So now let us see what projection there is. First, I'm gonna look at it for a couple of seconds to see what I make out of it. And of course, to allow the ink to settle a bit, because it's still runny. And then I'm gonna share it with you, both sides. So in both upright and reverse, if there is even such a thing. And you can pause it, pause the screen when you see the image, to allow yourself to interpret. And again, your interpretation, what you see here, is more important than my guideline. So let us show this now. And let's also show it reversed. And I'll put it back in a moment. Let me just analyze it myself. So in this position, I see now, you might be laughing with me now, a panda bear and a small child trying to catch a butterfly in the net. Reversed, however, I do see two goldfish, but also two ladies whispering secrets to one another. Now, the panda bear. The panda bear, well, please excuse me for my very silly interpretation, but they are very, very bouncy. They are very, very playful. They're very, very careless. And they're very, very corpulent, if that even makes sense. So, how can we interpret this symbol? What might the unconscious say with the panda? First of all, bear, but then we'll add the panda stuff on it. Well, the pear is usually a symbol of our usually physical strength, resilience, but many times also our rigidity and also our inner aggression. An inner aggression which is many times um, chained and locked within, but when when the moment comes for it to be unleashed one way or another, well, it's not a pretty scene. So you might be a person who fits this personality where you can keep your cool, you can keep your calm for a very long time, don't get me wrong. But when it erupts, everything shakes, like your Uranus. An earthquake happens. Now, something also very specific to bears is the hibernation period. So, this is where, putting into context, a part of your life, a part where you have a great strength, endurance, resilience, was hibernating. For some people, this might represent their physical bodies. This might represent that maybe you have been wishing to be in shape, or you are seeing other people and complimenting their harmonious physical how you say that, their physique, and this leads you to a certain kind of sadness because you see the contrast between them and you, where there really isn't a contrast. All you need to do is embrace your physical body, drop into it for a while, get out of your mind and drop into your physical body. Allow yourself to feel the physicality. And this is where I'm not meaning sensually and sexually, but rather in actual physical experience wise, put your feet in the river, in the sea, in the ocean, walk bare, do exercise, do some physical work, but not in a way where you immediately sense that it tires you, that it doesn't make you happy, that it's not you, because that is just a blockage. That is just something that your mind put there as an illusion. An illusion, you can imagine that society, modern society, this is where re-embrace your physical self, your physical body, and that's when things are gonna start changing. Certain healings are gonna start taking place, but at the same time, your overall energy and the way you manage your energy, but on autopilot, not you when your body is 1,000,000% under your control, but exactly the autopilot. when your mind and emotions and even your inner self is preoccupied with one thing, that doesn't need to take a toll on the physical body. Physical and your focus can exist, Aquarius, exist at the same time in a harmonious way. So you do need to find connection with your physical body. On the other hand, this represents that something is building up within you, a volcano, something is frustrating you, but maybe for diplomacy's sake, or because you love a person, a job, you love something, you're not letting your dissatisfaction out, and you're near the explosion when the bear goes into the rage state, and you know nothing is left unturned. The bear, and this is where my city is almost overrun by bears. So the bear can do damage like no other beast. This is where it's not about survival, it's about that it will literally tear you to shreds. You don't want that energy to do that, even if that is symbolic, because of course this is not physical. What I mean is that when you get into the bear rage, you make decisions, choices that are immediate and are very, very radical. And many times not all that useful, if you know what I mean. So, whatever energy, dissatisfaction, frustration is building up inside of you, you need to address it before it bursts out. But another side of you, the other bear, blocks it. You know what I mean? This is where the dichotomy of Aquarius. But now the bear also symbolizes that you're afraid of something. But that something has to do with an element, something that is within your power, is within your mastery, but has been hibernating for a long time. And you might be thinking, should I or shouldn't I? Do I still have it in me? Am I still good at it? Do I still have my strength? Absolutely. So dare to embrace the positive example of the bear and allow that part of the self to express its strength, its mastery, or regardless, it might be in love, it might be in career, it might be like, let me give you a really silly example. DIY in your home. Do you still have it, or is should it hibernate? No, no, you still have it. So channeling the energy of the bear is really, really good. But let's put the panda into context, because the panda is playful and bouncy, and from all of the bears, perhaps the panda bear is the bear which, when it can choose, it chooses to be non-carnivorous. It can still kill, it can still be the beast, but usually it just eats bamboo. Bamboo? Something like that. So you can imagine that there is a very powerful docile nature with the bounciness, the playful. The bouncy means protection. The bouncy means that whatever you fear, well, chances are the fear is almost to the degree of ridiculous, because the bounciness, what can happen to you? You will always bounce back. Or pandas fall from trees and they don't care. Exactly, because they're bouncy, and most of the time nothing happens to them. They are fine. So they fall from trees, from hillsides, they roll even. That means a great resilience and protection, almost to the degree of playfulness. So you have that within you. So whatever it is you fear, if I still have it in me or not, if you try it, if you, let's say, risk, maybe there's not much to lose, because you will bounce back. You know what I mean? Now, if we reverse this, the two ladies that whisper secrets to one another. This might represent that two sides of you, and I'm not saying feminine and masculine. No, 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 no. This does not do with that kind of polarization. This is where it's more like energetic. Do you have strong Gemini, Pisces, or Libra placement in your chart? Because those energies represent when you are double the efficiency of a non-dual. When I say duality, in this case, let's not understand it as positive, negative, indecisiveness, black and white, but where there is almost like two simultaneous energies inside of you, two perspectives, two mindsets, even two emotional configurations that actually coexist. You being your own best friend, for example, you being able to be there for yourself, almost like if you had, almost like if that other self would be external. So this actually means a great efficiency. So maybe there is something that you've been planning. Maybe there is something that there's these two sides of yourself were working on. And this is where it would be wise for you not really to share the plan with other people, if that makes sense. It would be maybe wise for you to act on it and share the end result. This is where it says you can really trust yourself. Trust yourself with something that you might have doubts on. Because this is where, when I say you have doubt, both of these sides of the self doubt at the same time. Because when I say your dual nature, for you personally, that is very rarely dichotomous. Usually it's like always in unison, but just having two instead of one. When you have doubts, both doubt. When you, let's say, love something, both love. But these two selves are also different from one another. They just add a different dimension, a different color, a different perspective. This makes you as resilient as the panda, if you know what I mean. And the goldfish, Pisces again. Do you have Pisces, strong Pisces energy in your chart right now? Because the goldfish, and if you can see, they're not swimming apart as Pisces usually is depicted, because in Pisces the fish try to swim in opposite directions. And why? Well, the duality of the spirit, unholy spirit, holy spirit, compassion, lack of compassion. Because don't get me wrong, Pisces is associated with compassion and empathy. However, guess which sign of the zodiac can be the coldest and not the most non-caring and ignorant? You guessed it, Pisces. So these fish swim to meet each other. So this is where self-harmony comes into play. This is where something inside of you within the self is embracing. So if I'm not mistaken, this may mean that your inner being is readying you for a moment of great empowerment. Just be careful with the bear's rage. And the bear, if I would need to put it in an astrological context, well, that might be more like Taurus. You know what I mean? So what is Taurus doing in your chart? And when I say chart, usually this doesn't mean the sun sign. This means the astrological balance. So anyway, let us see what the cards have to say. And this is where I'm not asking any question, no intent, whatever may come out just comes out. The King of Knight of Swords reversed. the sun reversed, moon reversed. Ten of Cups, upright. Now, unlike for the previous piles, the cards may not directly have anything to do with the ink splatter reading, because these cards are telling me that there is something in your life that either needs to change or you're feeling strongly in a blind way. Knight of Swords reversed. Your mind cannot grip it. It cannot anticipate. It cannot figure it out. You're blind. And that annoys the bear. You know what I mean? It annoys you. Because usually you're a person who, the fish, good intuition. Usually you feel everything before it happens, one way or another, in dreams or in whatever, clear, sentience, clear, whatever. This is where for some time now, your senses are blocked. You know that something is going to happen, yet you're almost like not just blind to it, but deaf, and any of your senses to navigate is not functioning. So all you have is your hope or your faith that, oh, I hope it's going to be all right. But something happens after, when the sun and moon reverse eclipse. We have an eclipse on the 8th of April that might be relevant. Sun is first. So that tells me the sun is blocked by the moon. So that usually means solar eclipse. So that's either 8th of April or 10 September. Or September. Or let's even say the autumn. So either spring or autumn, because these are the two eclipse dates. And if we just look at spring and autumn, it can even be the lunar one, because we do have the solar one on the 8th of April and the lunar one in May, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it doesn't actually, I can look at it. Just give me a second. Maybe it's important for you guys to know these dates. So we have penumbral lunar eclipse on the 25th of March in Libra, total solar eclipse on the 8th of April, partial lunar eclipse on the 17th of September, and this is in Pisces. The partial lunar eclipse is in Pisces, very important. An annular solar eclipse on the 2nd of October, also in Libra. So these are 2024's eclipse dates. Something completes at the eclipse. Something which is either karmic but emotional in nature. Something that, the fish and the two women whispering to one another. Something that your inner being awaits greatly. Something that you're conversing and consulting your inner, the two sides of you. This is where both are in a bit panic mode. What might happen, when it might happen. However, this reading does not say what, but it says that it's a completion. This also represents the duality, the dog and the cat sitting in perfect harmony, dreaming by the fire. You can imagine that this is a positive sign. So it will bring both a completion, an end to something, but something is very joyous here. This is where it's panda, the bouncy panda. It will turn the rageful bear into the bouncy, playful panda. You know what I mean? And also Pisces. This is Pisces energy. Mars in the sign of Pisces. And the moon. And the eclipse energies. But anyway, I'm very sure you guys are going to figure this out yourself. This is the hint that the universe gave you. So thank you for listening. Thank you everyone, especially the third and final pile, and wishing you guys a blessed new moon. But there's also something else that I would like to perhaps ask of everyone who is listening. There is so much destruction and ultimately death going on in the world right now. And this is where, beyond the veil, this is where a lot of souls who passed, but actually, I use the worst possible terminology here, who died, but maybe they died so quickly, suddenly, traumatically, that they didn't even become all that much aware that they passed. So if it is in your power, if you're so very guided, please light a candle for them and say a prayer so that they can find peace, so that they can find the path to return to the light, if that makes sense. I don't want to, I have to be very careful with my words, because you can imagine that every listener belongs to different culture, different faith, but this is where all faiths, regardless of what spiritual path or religion, lighting a candle and saying a prayer for the souls of the deceased is something that everyone has in common, especially for children. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the love and support. I really hope that this was useful and fun, as fun for you as it was for me in the Uranian theme. Until next time, bye.